On this episode of Locked On Angels, the Angels signed 18 international players during the international signing period. So who'd they get and when will they make an impact? Because apparently we need some players to compete against the Dodgers. It's time to get some answers, and it's time to get locked on with Mike and John. And this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube and leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by FanDuel. From first whistles to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Happy Monday to you. Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we're here in the midst of our third offseason here at Locked On Angels, ready for our fourth full-time season coming up here in a few weeks, Mike. We're here 3 days a week until pitchers and catchers report to spring training. Then we'll jump back to 5 days a week, and you can count on us Monday through Friday, every single weekday, to talk Angels baseball with you. On today's show, the international signing period, it opened this past week. And who did the Halos sign? We're going to get into all of that. But first, let's do a little recap, Mike. How does all of this international signing period stuff work with amateur free agents and whatnot?
Yeah, it began last week, January 15th, and the signing period, a player is able to sign with a major league team from January 15th to December 15th.
Jared Timms from Talking Halos had a funny tweet on the 14th, Sunday. He said, I guarantee the Angels will sign somebody tomorrow.
Oh, man.
Not a lot of people didn't realize, because the internet, that was the joke.
Yeah.
And it was pretty great.
Yeah, not many people got it though, right?
No, they did not.
They got to go in. They didn't miss out on Corbin Burns,
Yeah.
Blake Snell.
Hey, that's Jared's fault. Jared's fault. Listen, a player has to be 16 before he signs and 17 before September 1st the following year. So that means that players born between September 1st of 2007 and August 31st of 2008 will be eligible to sign during the current period. Young babies, Johnny, getting older. Players got to be registered with Major League Baseball to be eligible to sign with the team. And then teams have a pool of money that they can spend on players. The Halos had a little over $6 million in bonus pool money. John, they ended up signing 18 guys. And here's the reality. We probably won't see any of these guys in the States until about 2026. And we won't see any of these guys even sniffing the majors until about 2029 because they're so young, John. They're still trying to get their diploma. They're still trying to graduate high school, right? So young players, a lot of them are 17 years old.
They were born when I graduated high school. Good grief.
Right. And so that's kind of the recap of how we got to this international signing period. Again, from now until December 15th, players can sign. But the Angels did sign 18 players over the last couple of days.
That's what I'm really happy about is the fact that they did sign 18 players. We'll get into a little bit of a conversation later on about, how that impacts the team moving forward. But before we talk about who they sign, let's consider this question. What kind of impact can these players have on the Angels? Well, there's 5 names that the Angels have signed over the last 25 years who have had a major impact on the Halos, and they all fall under the international signing period. Obviously, the most popular one is Shohei Ohtani.
Right.
And they signed him in 2017. He signed as an international amateur free agent, meaning he signed in very much the same way that Roki Sasaki just signed with the Dodgers. They paid him out of the international bonus pool money. It wasn't a, free agency kind of thing like Yamamoto last year was able to go to any team and sign for any amount. This, they had to pay out of the international bonus pool money. You even saw the Dodgers make some trades to get another team's bonus pool money. You can do that. You can trade players to get international bonus pool money in return. And that's the same path that Shohei Ohtani took, because I believe it's 23 years old, 23 and under are qualified as international. It might be 26, actually.
It's 26.
Okay, it's 26. Okay, so that's why these guys sign as international amateur free agents. Ohtani's obviously the biggest one, but you also have to consider somebody like K-Rod, Francisco Rodriguez, who, why is he not getting in the Hall of Fame? Like, the saves leader, right?
Right.
Come on,
Right.
what are we doing here?
The guy's incredible. Yeah, the guy's incredible. Has the single season saves record, right? K-Rod, I mean, he was fantastic for the Halos. Maybe it's just because he's a former Halo and the national media hates the Halos. So
that's right. Well, all that considered, he was an amateur international free agent out of Venezuela in 1998. Mike, one of my favorites, Eric Ibar.
Yeah.
Amateur free agent out of the DR in 2002. And then Irvin Santana was an amateur free agent out of the Dominican Republic as well in 2000. Then, what a story. What a guy.
Yeah.
Things could have been so different. Kendrys Morales signed as a free agent in 2004 after he defected from Cuba, and he signed for 6 years at $3 million. So those are some big names that have come out of international free agency. And the other part of it is the Angels haven't been very active outside of these Perry Manassian years. When we go back to Billy Epler, it was really Shohei Ohtani and then, a few here and there. Jaime Barria, Jose Suarez. You can thank Billy Epler for that. But there are good names that are coming out of this class, and we'll get into those names in a minute. Mike, recent names that our everydayers might recognize is catcher Juan Flores. He signed for $280,000 in 2023. He is a very defense-first catcher, played with Tri-City this past year in High A. He's 18 years old. You guys know Nelson Rada. He's an outfielder. He signed in 2022. He's the Halos number 4 prospect currently. He spent all of his age 18 season with Double-A, Trash Pandas.
Yeah.
And they basically, the Angels are being aggressive with him, but it was also like, let's test him out at a level where we know. And if you go to, Baseball Reference, you look at the numbers, you look at the stats, they're not fantastic, but it was, let's see how he handles that situation where, he's super gifted, super talented. Let's see how he handles the elevated competition as well.
Yeah. And he's 18. And so when you see the numbers and you're like, well, he's not really developing. He's 18. And he started when he was 16 with the Halos.
he's playing against, 22, 23, 24-year-olds up there in Double-A as well. And then Josue Lugo last year was also a very big signing as well, Mike.
Yeah. Now, here's an interesting note, John. And I was looking over the different international signings over the last 15 years. Only 5 non-pitchers have made their debut with the major league club in the last 15 years. And they're not names that you would immediately remember or recognize. They were players that came up, had a little spot start here and there, but the Angels have had more success with pitchers than they've had with position players. Now, when I say success, I'm going to use that term loosely because Jaime Barria, Jose Suarez would be considered a quote unquote success because they made it to the major league roster. However, I do think that there's a question that we need to wrestle with here, John. And is that a reflection of some of the past inaccuracies, incompetencies of the Angels developmental system? And can we expect that to change now that it seems like we're getting on the right track and we're seeing some really great players in our minor league system that look like they're getting better? Like Nelson Rada looks like he's getting better, even though he's a young guy. Do you think that's a reflection of the past? And are things changing now?
I think it's a 2-part answer. I think that, yes, it is a reflection of the lack of investment in minor league development. We can expect that to change because they have invested in the minor leagues from the top to the bottom. But I also think, Mike, it has a lot to do with perhaps the quality of the players that the Angels have taken in international free agency. And that goes back to how do you spend your money on minor league development? Well, part of that is scouting. And if your scouting department is, Joe and Steve with a clipboard, then you're not going to find the diamonds in the rough out there. You're going to find just players for the sake of finding players. I think that who the Angels have taken over the last 3 signing periods, I think they've got a lot to work with there. I mean, we talk about the top 30 prospects all the time, but you have to think of how many bodies do you need at each level of the organization. Well, that's a lot of players that you need. Yeah. And so for me, I love seeing them get back into the international free agent market because it feels like they haven't spent a lot of time there since before Perry Manassian came.
Well, and here's the thing that I think really affirms the Angels' strategy during the regular draft is that these young guys that they get in the international signing period are young guys, and they're going to have to take some time to develop, right? 2029, they might potentially be close to being on a major league roster. And so that's, 4 years from now. And so that is one of the reasons why I think Perry's been taking a lot of ready now players in the draft, like a Zach Neto and a Nolan Shawnoel, so that we can have younger guys build the core out of our team. And then in the next few years, you start to slot in some of these young guys that are performing well in the minor leagues. I mean, Nelson Rada is somebody that a lot of scouts are saying, like, this guy in 2026, perhaps 2027, is going to be on the major league roster, be an outfielder for the Halos. Now, we don't want him to rush him up, but if he's ready, then let's have him there. And you have him paired with somebody who is right out of college. That's a great balance for both of those players. It helps balance out this team. And so I can see somewhat of Perry Manassian's strategy as he's drafting these college-ready players and these international signings, the young versus the mature, the undeveloped versus the developed. I think it's a good mix for the Halos.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, because then you have guys who are ready now and working on things at the major league club, and then guys who, are taking that path to development, get here over the next couple of years, because 2022's class should arrive by maybe this year, maybe next year, right? So you've got, 3 or 4 years in between when the class signs and when they arrive. And, there's kind of a trickle effect. They come into to the league that way. And it addresses a problem the Angels have had for a long time. And that goes back to when you have Trout and Ohtani on this team, but then you can't field a competitive team around them. Even when those guys played together and they were actually healthy, not the greatest team around them, because you didn't have anybody to go to. And that's why we saw so many, bottom of the barrel scraper kind of players coming in, because the Angels didn't have anybody that they were excited about to come up and step into that role. Now that it's been a few years of Perry Manassian kind of working and building this international free agency pool and getting these guys integrated into the Angel system, I think that we're going to see a lot more guys who can come up and help in the years to come. And maybe we'll find that next Eric Ibar. Maybe we'll find that next Irvin Santana. And somebody that I'm really excited about, we're going to talk about in the next segment. I know he's a catcher, but he does have first base potential. Maybe another Kendrys Morales type. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, we're going to share the top 3 signings that the Halo took, and then wrestle with this question. Do we prefer somebody like a Roki Sasaki, who's a known commodity, or do we sign 18 unknown players and take lottery tickets out on those guys? Which one are we more into as we continue this conversation? We'll get into all of that coming right up.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel is making the NFL playoffs a whole lot more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's $300 to keep the action going for you. The FanDuel Sports app, it's easy to navigate. There's a variety of bets that keep you in every game. It's super exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly, John. You're not waiting for those winnings. And when you win, you want your money right now, right?
FanDuel's easy to navigate, but it's not easy to navigate. The freaking winter in the Northeast, when you're Buffalo and the Ravens, good grief, man. It all came down to that 2-point conversion that got dropped. And I gotta say those are some tough conditions, and I feel bad for him.
Fun game to watch, but a better game to bet on. So whether you're betting on your favorite team or you're just looking to add some extra excitement in the playoffs, FanDuel's got you covered. Just visit their website, FanDuel.com, and you can get started with $300 in bonus bets. Again, FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. We're here 3 days a week talking Angels baseball during the offseason. We'll ramp back up to 5 days a week when pitchers and catchers report. Forgot to mention it at the top. If you are interested in helping with wildfire relief here in Southern California, we have a link in the episode description that you can click for Convoy of Hope. 100% of your donations go toward helping those in need. And if you make a donation, send us your confirmation that you did, and we'll put you in a drawing for some Super Halo Bros merch, because we want to say thank you for helping others and contributing to Convoy of Hope.
John, let's talk about the players that the Angels have signed. Here's the top 3 guys that they signed. This guy signed for $2 million. His name is Gabriel Davalillo. He is 17 years old. He's 5'11", 215 pounds, and he's a catcher. And according to Baseball America, he has the strength and the bat speed to hammer fastballs over the fence and to develop into a potential 25 home run hitter. Scouts are saying that he could end up as a power over style type of hitter. Scouts are also really high on Davalillo because they see that he has great contact and great impact when he's up at the plate.
Our friend Lindsey Crosby always says your power tool is only as good as your hit tool, because you got to be able to hit the ball to show off your power. So that's great news about Davalillo. Let's talk about his defense. He's going to have to put in the most work, according to scouts. He's got a high baseball IQ from his upbringing. Obviously, he's had, family in the majors, which is really exciting. In fact, was it his dad who was a former Halo as well?
Angels organization, yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. He's got an above average arm, but he has to work on improving his mobility, clean up his defensive technique as he gets to the higher levels. And MLB Pipeline ranked him as the 17th overall prospect among the international prospects. So that's great news. Bringing up Jared again from Talking Halos. He saw this a long time ago. So this is who the Angels are getting.
Yeah.
They're getting Davalillo. He put him in his top 10 Angels prospects, which is pretty cool. And then Locked On Angels Hall of Famer, former host Taylor Blake Ward of the Sporting Tribune, he tweeted that Davalillo is a bat-first backstop with rounded average or better offensive projection, a solid approach as an amateur. He's going to need time to develop defensively with a fair chance to stick in the majors. You got to love that from TBW.
Yeah. The second signing that the Halos picked up was a Dominican shortstop named Yulver DePaula. Halos gave him $900,000. He's an athletic shortstop he's an above average runner with plenty of quickness, really strong arm, and has the ability to make both the range and the routine plays. He's 5'11", 170 pounds. DePaula is a switch hitter who has a sound offensive approach, a really good bat, really good control. Doubles power is what a lot of scouts are saying. This guy's going to hit it all over the field. 51 doubles in a season type of player. TBW said that DePaula is a solid athlete, projected as a above average or plus defender. He's a plus runner and has a bat, but it will need time to catch up to his glove. And he mostly has gap power with a line drive cut.
You love seeing those hits into the gap and somebody who's a speedster taking off and getting to second, getting to third super quick. Third signing was a Dominican shortstop, Johansel Cabrera. He signed for $400,000, 6'2", 185 pounds. That's a big guy out there. Shortstop, Mike,
right.
6'2". You're like 6'3", aren't you? Man, that's a tall shortstop out there.
A big guy.
He's offensive oriented. He stands out for his chance to hit with power from the left side of the plate. You like that? An above average arm, could end up at second or third base. We actually had a great question from Locked On Everyday or Matt Oso in our YouTube comments. Said the Angels really need to get 4 shortstops. Is that just my imagination? What's up with that?
Yeah.
So I explained to him, and I think it brought up a good conversation point. And this comes up every year. Most of those infielders that you see, even in the amateur draft in July, you'll see this too. A lot of guys are listed as shortstops because, yeah, they play there, but you'll find that when you see the word shortstop, you might lean towards like, that's going to be more of an infielder.
Yeah.
Maybe a second baseman, possibly a third baseman. And so for the most part, if they're listed as shortstop, they probably will not stick at shortstop.
Right.
That's why when you have somebody like Zach Neto, who's drafted as a shortstop, that's the kind of, and he's going to stick in the majors. That's how you know, that's the sign of a good shortstop, is that you sign them and you know that they're going to stick in the majors. It's not a question of, they're a shortstop, but we're going to move them to second, to third, maybe even the outfield, right?
Yeah.
And so that is what happens a lot of the time with these infielders. Mike, what do you think of that Davalillo signing? It seems like the Angels are really high on him, considering $2 million and the 17th overall prospect in terms of international prospects. What do you say?
Yeah, he's got a really good bat. And as the scouts are saying, he's really got to work on his defense, but he's got a great IQ. He's got a great baseball IQ, and he's somebody that I think the Angels can develop over time. He's just 17 years old. Again, we probably won't see him or these other guys until 2026, so they're not even going to be in the system until they're 18, perhaps 19 years old. And so he's somebody that if he can be a quick learner, I could see the Angels moving him through the system really fast. And then when you talk about size, John, one of the indicators of where these guys will be, especially when they're listed as shortstops, is how tall they are and how much they weigh right now. That doesn't mean that they have stopped growing or they're not going to put on weight, but DePaula is listed as a shortstop, 5'11", 170 pounds. Yeah, that looks like a shortstop, right? But with somebody like Cabrera, 6'2", 185, he's young, so he's going to put on probably another 20 to 25 pounds in the next 2 to 3 years. He's probably going to move himself to third base, perhaps even second base. And if he does put on a lot of weight and he is tall, he could be a left fielder. He could be a right fielder. One of the indicators also is the kind of arm that they have, right? If they have a strong arm, they're great in the infield, but if they can utilize them in the outfield, especially in right field, then the Angels can move him out there. And so these guys are going to be kind of a mix and match. Where's the best place to put them, especially if they are offensive minded first? It's really going to be a matter of where can we stick them so that we can get their bat in the lineup, right?
I'm trying to find how tall is O'Neal Cruz, because he was playing shortstop for the Pirates for a while, and it's like that was a tall dude. And the thing is he's got a great arm out there. 6'7", good grief. Yeah,
he's
so
massive. Yeah.
O'Neal Cruz is the exception to the rule, I suppose you could say. But yeah,
how much
it is exciting.
Is you have 215?
215. It says.
So still light on the weight. So I
right.
mean, when you're 6'7", you need to weigh about that much. So, but he's somebody that I think that's why he's stuck there, because he's still lean and mean. And that's what you need at short. That's what you need in the infield. You could probably be a little bit heavier at third base, but eventually for these guys, depending on what kind of weight they put on and how tall they end up being, they can move to a left field, a right field position, maybe even center, but center still, you have to have a leanness and a meanness out there as well.
It's going to be interesting to watch how things proceed with Davalillo, considering, you mentioned Juan Flores. There's another great catcher in the system. I can't think of him off the top of my head. And then, of course, you have Ohapi at the top of that list. But we do have 2 years of d'Arnaud, which is great. And so you kind of have to imagine that, perhaps if Ohapi continues to get better behind the plate, maybe by virtue of being mentored by Travis d'Arnaud, Ohapi becomes obviously the starter and the more rounded out offensive defensive guy. And then you have room for somebody like a Davalillo to come up and be a power dude. And again, I mentioned it earlier, he could find himself over at first base. He could find himself being a power corner, which is something that the Angels could really use as well. So again, those three are the top deals. We'll get into more of the signings and then ask the question about, do you go and just take the big hot commodity like Roki Sasaki, or signing 18 players? Okay, we're going to get into that conversation coming right up.
Today's show is brought to you by Rocket Money. It's a personal finance app that helps you to find and cancel those unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending, and it helps lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. And it brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals that you have for this year.
What's great is when we had our baby, a lot of people gave us DoorDash and Uber Eats, and I joined, the Dash Pass and the Uber Eats one, all the special things, because I'm like, you get a free thing for 30 days.
Right.
And then we can use our gift cards that people send us. But then you got to remember to turn them off. And that's where Rocket Money can come in and help you turn off those unwanted subscriptions.
Yep. Rocket Money is all about cancel culture, Johnny. They have over 5 million users, and they've saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members an average of $740 a year when using the app's premium features. And they have this goals feature, super great. You're automatically setting aside money for the future, no stressing about budget every single month. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach those financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Visit their website, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon.
Mike, we're going to do a quick rundown of the rest of the names that the Angels signed over the international signing period. Shout outs again to Jared Timms of Talking Halos, Taylor Blake Ward, who does a ton of coverage of the Angels. These guys are all over it when it comes to prospects and international prospects and those that are tied to the Angels. So a lot of great information from them. Of course, Baseball America as well. So let me start at the top of the rest of the field. Jose Santana is a Dominican shortstop, 6'1", 170 pounds, quickness, actions, and arm strength to handle shortstop. So there's somebody who could stick at shortstop. He'll need to get stronger, but he has a solid bat to ball skill with line drive approach from the right side. That sounds like a major league shortstop to me, Mike. Bat to ball skills, line drive approach, get a little bit stronger, and you'll find yourself sticking at the shortstop position in the majors.
Anthony Santa Cruz is from Cuba. He's a left-handed hitting corner outfielder, 6'3", 180 pounds. Already has some flashy, impressive power for his age with a lot of room to grow. And scouts believe, once he fills out more, he's already 6'3", 180 pounds. So maybe 6'4", 220 pounds. They think that this guy could be a really power corner outfielder for the Halos.
And these guys are high school age. These are the guys that could beat me up in high school. Right. On the mound, Venezuelan. Yeah, exactly. Venezuelan left-hander, Freddie Hernandez, 6'1", 190 pounds. He's got a starter look and feel to mix his pitches. So he's working off a fastball that goes up to 91, which is great for somebody his age, and then a curveball and a changeup as well. So starter potential from Freddie Hernandez.
Yeah, and then Dominican outfielder Yelison Betances. He's a high-contact bat who rarely swings and misses. Projectable frame is what scouts say, but minimal current power right now, which means that he could develop, he could grow, put on some muscle, and then he could develop that power. Decent defender with a chance perhaps at center field in the future.
And then there's a right-hander out of Venezuela, Wilner Barroteran, athletic, projectable frame, 6'3", 190 pounds. Project to add more growth from a fastball that's up to 92 miles an hour right now. Has a good feel for his slider and better feel for his slider than he does with his changeup. And then there's a Dominican outfielder, Junior Suriel, a smaller athletic right-handed hitting outfielder, a real chance to stick in center field. He hits, runs, and fields well as an amateur. Among the younger players in the class who spend most of 2025 at 16 years old. So more on the young side for him.
Yeah. Dominican shortstop, another shortstop. Cesar Paredes. He is a athletic, legit middle infield with a really great action at the plate. He's a fair hitter from the right side, according to scouts, and currently has very good hitability. I love these words that the scouts threw in there. The hitability is fantastic. And he's somebody who could be a good leader for other players. They see a lot of leadership qualities in him.
They got a right-hander out of the DR, Steven Cabrera, 6'4" righty, good fastball that touches 92, still needs a secondary pitch. A Venezuelan right-hander, Juan Jordan. They're banking on him and his athleticism and his delivery. Needs to gain a little bit of strength. Miguel Liendo is out of the DR. He's a right-handed pitcher. Smaller pitchability, righty with strength that he needs to add. Potential average secondaries, mid-80s fastball, fair control. And then Albert Morel out of the DR is a right-handed pitcher. A thin, projectable 6'3" righty with a loose arm. Sits in the upper 80s with a good fastball. Solid makings of a breaking ball. Ability to repeat and throw strikes. A top Angels pitcher for 2025. You like the repeatability when it comes to the mechanics of these guys. Felix Tapia, also out of the Dominican Republic, right-handed pitcher, 6'2", fair on the mound, and presently sits at 86 to 88. Mike, the question I kind of put out there over the weekend on Twitter was, hey, I understand Roki Sasaki would have been really great, especially for a team that wants to compete this year and in the coming years.
Yeah.
But I also feel like if the Angels remain future-minded, signing 18 players over a Roki Sasaki that you'll have now, how do you square that? What do you think?
Yeah, I would have loved to have Roki Sasaki on my favorite baseball team. However, you get 6 years of control with him, and he's somebody that potentially is going to be really, really good. The Angels just have to see what kind of window they have, right? And so I think going in the direction of getting young players and drafting the way that they're drafting is probably the smart way to go. The reality is that they didn't have to really compete for people in the draft, and they didn't really have to compete for these international signings. I know other teams could have potentially signed them as well, but the Angels made a commitment to them. They committed to the Angels. And when it comes to somebody like a Roki Sasaki, he's obviously starstruck. He's obviously wants to go and be developed well and also wants to win. And the Angels aren't in that position right now. I think that they're working on developing players, but they're not in a position where they're almost guaranteed to be in the World Series this year and the next year and the following year. Like Roki Sasaki is going to be in pivotal, significant games. And that's really what he wanted when he came over to the United States.
Somebody said, I would have taken 6 years of control for a future ace. And I said, well, the thing is we did have 6 years of control of a future ace who also hit, by the way. And even in his good years, 21, 22, and 23, the Angels didn't have a team around him. Yeah. And then when your stars like Trout get hurt, there's no team around Shohei Ohtani. That's not having any big international free agent signings over the last couple of years before Ohtani really hit his stride. That's where this puts you, Mike. The Angels didn't have anybody to go to in their minor leagues that could have helped support this team when they did lose their superstars. Yeah, you had surprises like Jared Walsh for a while, and David Fletcher was great in 2019 and 2020. But because of the lack of investment in the international free agent market, and you got to develop those relationships too. You mentioned like they work out these deals with these guys and sign these guys, but it's a lot of time talking with them, meeting their families, and talking to them about what they can offer to them. So there's a lot that goes into these international free agent signings. The fact that the Angels were able to get 18, I think is really huge. They're all lottery tickets, and somebody like Davalillo is, going to be somebody to keep your eyes on. But at the end of the day, I think this is a situation where quantity really counts over the quality that you're going to get with Roki Sasaki. Not trying to cope, not trying to talk myself into saying I don't want Roki Sasaki. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, we do. If the Angels are going to continue to build correctly, they're going to make investments in the future like they did with this international free agent signing period.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB with our friend Sully. He's going to bring you a blend of humor and keep you updated on all of the rumors and stories throughout the offseason. Find his show on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels or on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. I got everybody talking this past weekend, Mike, didn't I? On Super Halo Bros. Yeah, it's just how everybody knows. It's usually just me tweeting from Super Halo Bros. FYI. Mike, what do we have on deck when we come back on Wednesday's show?
Johnny, we talked about Taylor Ward last week and what if he stays. The thing that we haven't talked about, or really anybody's talked about, is the impact that Jorge Soler could potentially have on this lineup. And we need to talk about it. So let's do that on Wednesday on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation. We hope you'll come back and join us. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday.
If the tweet is good, it's from John. If the tweet is bad, it's from John.
Yeah, exactly.